Welcome to the Your Brain Shift podcast, everyone. I'm speaking today with Anthony Montes, a writer, teacher, actor, and he has a very fascinating and interesting journey of how he turned, metaphorically, his mess into his message. So welcome to the Your Brain Shift podcast, Anthony. And
Thanks for having me, Keith.
tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Okay, my name's Anthony. I'm originally from New York. I'm an actor, always wanted to be an actor. Grew up in New York, went into the Navy when I was 17, got out before I was 21, and then started pursuing what I wanted to do, which was be an actor. Moved to LA, started my own group, the Artist Theater Group, started producing plays, eventually started writing plays. With my group, I began teaching and found I had a real passion for teaching. So currently, what I do is I teach my students to create their own opportunities. I've been teaching internationally in 15 different countries. But the biggest thing I do is try to help guide them on their own path. Writing is a great way to express yourself. And I've written 11 screenplays. I've had 2 of them made. The Last Train and The Last Night In. And currently I'm working on my one-man show, Out of the Darkness into the Light, which is all about, turning my mess into my message.
Yeah, it was a compelling share when I met you on Lunch Club, a one-on-one networking platform that we both participate on, and how powerful the message was from that mess. So, and the one-man show. So, if you would and don't mind, share with the audience the genesis of that experience.
So, on 4th of July, 1983, I had had enough of this life. I had a father who was an alcoholic and abusive, physically and emotionally damaging human being. And at 27, I had enough. I was working 3 jobs to pay my rent. All I wanted to do was be an actor. All my friends were coupled up, going away for the 4th of July. And I never thought I'd have love of my life. I was convinced of that through my father. Was going home on the elevated train in New York, saw the train coming, and I jumped. And as soon as I hit the tracks, I thought of my mother and realized I couldn't do that to her. With really seconds to think, I was able to jump to the left and grab onto part of a fence and pull myself in. The train clipped me and fractured my arm. A week later, I read where a guy had jumped on the tracks to help a homeless guy, and he was not able to squeeze in where I was able to squeeze in. The train took him, tore him up, and killed him. The homeless guy lost his legs. And I think I suffered with a form of survival guilt for years, because he was a guy trying to help somebody. He died, and I'm throwing it away, and I lived. So that's been with me for most of my life. I always wanted to tell a one-man story, and as a kid, I thought that we were being watched. And I thought at the end of our lives, we would have to watch the movie of our life with everyone we've ever come in contact with. So that's what I based my one-man show on. So I come out onto a empty stage, which is a platform for a subway. There's a homeless person. I give them a couple of bucks. They finish their song. They're ready to walk off. I stop them, and I give them all my money. And they say, "You sure?" I say, "Positive." And I say, "Be careful." And we hear the train coming. As the train's about to pass, I jump in front of it. I have 260 pictures, me my age now, to an infant, so my life passes backwards in the darkness. The theater goes black, and then a spotlight comes up on me, and my sneakers are gone. And I don't know where I am, and out of the darkness, I hear a voice say, "Why?" I don't know who or what this is, so I'm a little nervous to answer. And the voice says, "Why?" And I say, "Oh, this, yeah, I was just running for the train and I slipped." And we hear this electric shock. I'm shocked, and I know I can't lie to this entity. Lights come up on stage, and my sneakers are on a pile of shoes. And I say, "What's with the shoes?" And the voice says, "Those are the shoes of those who did what you did before you." Before I can ask another question, lights come up on the audience. Who are they? And the voice says, those are the deciders. I say, the deciders decide what? If I'm going to go to heaven or... And before I say hell, it's explained to me that we each have 3 lifetimes. Come here to learn the lessons we need to learn. If we learn them, we pass on. If not, we become a decider. I say, okay, I'm okay becoming a decider. I say, no, you don't get that choice now because of what you did. Lights come up on a raffle wheel, and in that wheel, I have 75 wooden chips with events from my life, real stories, from the worst of me to the best of me. And one by one, the audience comes up, spins the wheel, pulls out a wooden chip, hands it to me, and I have to explain why I did what I did. So to keep the show at about an hour and a half, I only get through 11 to 15 of the 75 stories. And then the voice says, okay, we heard enough. Anything else you want to say? And then depending on how the show is going, if it's in my favor or not, I may or may not have something to say. And vote. Do I go back to Earth and complete my journey? Or do I join them and become a decider? So far, they've always voted for me to go back, and I've done it in San Francisco, LA, New York, and Frankfurt, Germany. And then right after that, I do a Q&A, and I open up a conversation about mental health, but more specifically, suicide. Mm-hmm. Since I've been doing this play, because I put my own story in the playbill, so they already know that I'm a suicide survivor and that I've literally been on the tracks. Not that my story is everybody's story, but it is a story of how I got there. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about change, how, we are here to learn certain lessons I believe in to grow and change. But since I've been doing that in my last film, The Last Train, that dealt with that subject matter too, I've had 6 people contact me when they were suicidal. And fortunately, in each case, I've been able to talk them out of it and into getting help. So I've turned my mess into my message, which is
sounds like very powerful results, not to mention the powerful experience that you're articulating in the play. For our audience base benefit, what's the name of this awesome creation?
Yeah, out of the darkness into the light. Mm-hmm. So, and currently I'd love to take it to colleges. I want to tour with it. I want to film it and get it on one of the streaming platforms. I could film all 75 of the stories, and then it could be like choose your own adventure type thing. But there's so many places, like in Pakistan, I was speaking to somebody. It's so frowned upon that if someone commits suicide or attempts it in the family, the whole family has to move because you've brought such shame on them. So many people suffer in silence. And I think if they see my show, they at least know they're not alone and feel hopeful.
Yeah.
Maybe it gives them a pause to get through that day.
Well, our social structures aren't as impactful and deferential to talking about suicide as Pakistan, for example. There is a lot of myths and avoidance of discussing mental health as ubiquitous as our challenges are in modern times. So for you to be, sharing that powerful message that there is change that can be pursued, and the courage it takes to change that you've demonstrated, and it can happen. That spark or that change can happen instantaneously in a moment.
Yeah. It's been the most profound thing I've ever been a part of, and during the pandemic, it just seems like, unfortunately, this subject matter is constant. Maybe even more so now because of online bullying. We have a lot of young people feel hopeless, feel like this world doesn't care about them, or
Mm-hmm.
they're comparing themselves to others. And I had an experience. I put my story up when I was looking to raise money for my film, The Last Train. And we had a mother reach out to us from Texas. Her daughter had cut her wrist, didn't want to live. She showed her a video, me and my co-star Sierra Danielle. I talked openly about my suicide attempt. She talked openly about her battle with anorexia and bulimia, and showed it to this. The mother showed it to the kid, and the kid felt we were the only people who would get her. Would we talk to her? And we did, and we became mentors to this kid. And she had to go away. When she came back, the kids in her school knew what she had done, and one of the kids that had been bullying her said, "Next time, cut deeper."
Wow.
And the mother, yeah, just cruel. And the mother had called me. She wants to die again. She'll only talk to you when you talk to her. And I did. And I found out the kid's name, and I got her and the mother to have a relationship again. And she's doing really well now. Years have passed. And I wrote a part for her, so she appears in the movie. So that was really, it was magical getting to meet her. They drove up from Texas to LA for a weekend. We got to meet. She got to shoot and go on and feel hopeful.
Yeah.
And that was our theme with that film as well, to keep hope alive.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot of power in hope.
oh, yeah. And there's a lot of power. It's a privilege to be an actor, to be an artist, because we get to entertain, and we see how important that was during the pandemic. But we also get to say something about something we want to say something about. And suicide has, I guess, become the thing that I'm most concerned about helping people with, helping people talk about it, helping people tell their own stories.
Yeah, that we don't have to suffer alone with it, whatever trauma or state
Yeah.
is nudging us to consider that.
Yeah. And you realize in this forum that I've created when I do the play that you're not alone. You know, not everyone, everyone, excuse me, I have a cold, talks about their life so openly on stage. But one day when I was doing it, a husband and wife who had been married for 15 years, he said that 8 years ago he had tried to kill himself, and the wife was hearing it for the first time. So I think talking about it, not making it so taboo to talk about it, because most people have at least thought about it. They think about, I can't take it anymore. Then there's a percentage that have tried it, continue to try it. If you find out you're not alone and there is help out there if you seek it, and that you're worth it.
And it's okay to be vulnerable. In fact, there's a lot of rapport and connection established through vulnerability. So I understand while you are in the process of pursuing a more major production and getting the play out there, that you do have a version that people can access on a pay-per-view basis. Tell us about that.
The theater that I did it out at on March 5th, the White Fire Theater here in Sherman Oaks, California. They filmed it, so they have it on their platform. So if you went to White Fire Theater, TheaTreAtere.com, they have their live stream. They have the recordings there that you can just go through their one-person shows. They have a one-act festival that I was a part of. And then you'll see my poster, Out of the Darkness into the Light, and you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And your website also has some information. What's the website that people can?
I have, AnthonyMontes.com. I also might have a method of teaching that I do, which is called the Montes Method. So if you went to the MontesMethod.com, you would find information about that, which aligns very much with mindfulness. When I was shared with you when I was in Stockholm teaching, the mother of the the woman who set up the workshop heard me talking about being present, being in the moment, and listening, and she asked me to do an exercise, do a class with her group, and I did. And most people don't really know how to listen. They're too busy thinking about what they're going to say.
Listening to the dialogue in the head, yeah.
Yeah.
Or thinking about how to respond, not necessarily.
Right. Yeah, so they shut off. So the early exercises do just that. Make you present, make you a better listener, make you better at reading behavior. And overall, I think makes us better communicators. Yeah.
In order to communicate, we first have to listen. In order to figure out whether we can provide value, we have to listen. A lot of power in that. And there's a reason, I think there's an old saying, there's a reason why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
Yeah.
We should spend twice as much time listening. It sounds simple, but it's not always easy.
No, and I've had psychiatrists and lawyers and doctor and dentists and CEOs work with me, and it's pointed out fairly quickly how much they're not listening. They see it for themselves, and it's like once you focus on it, I mean, you could do anything.
Yeah. So besides that amazing journey, what you've accomplished, transforming that initial mess into a message, and which is a very powerful play as well. I'm about 3/4 through watching it, and I hardly recommend people. While the subject matter can be a little awkward, it's worth the watch. Very powerful message, and a lot of humor and playfulness. And you've had some amazing life experiences. Out of all of those to date, since our focus for the podcast is mindset shifts and brain shifts for greater success, health, wellness, and fulfillment, what's one nugget from your overall experience that would fall under that general focus that you'd share as a last minute nudge today?
Well, I guess to, go after your dreams, go after what you want, to say yes. There's a quote in a book called Illusions by Richard Bach that I like. It says, don't turn away from an experience unless you're sure you have nothing to learn from it. So once I started saying yes to things, like when I started teaching overseas, I'd never done it before. And somebody said, hey, if I put a workshop together, I didn't think of all the reasons why it wouldn't work. I just said, okay,
yeah,
if you
that
do it, I'll
pesky
come.
negative brain bias, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little field of dreams. If you built it, they would come. If you're willing to do it, then yeah. And then saying yes took me to 15 countries I'd never been to before.
Wow. So can't get much simpler than that. Yes.
No. Yeah. And be in the moment, be present. This is what we have.
Well, it's been a delight chatting with you again. And I know our audience will get value from it. And my nudge is to look for it and check out, watch Out of the Darkness and Into the Light.
Yeah. And if you need help, get help.
And if you need help, get help. Absolutely.
Yeah.